At 3 a.m. on a frozen Alberta highway, Sarah and I saw something that still haunts me 12 years later. Standing 8 feet tall with glowing eyes and goat-like legs, it watched us pass. We both saw it, and we weren't the only ones. Close your eyes, and let's escape. The headlights cut through the darkness like knives through black velvet, illuminating nothing but endless snow and the skeletal fingers of bare trees reaching toward a moonless sky. It was 3 a.m. in rural north-central Alberta, and the world felt like it had died hours ago. I was 17, riding shotgun while my best friend Emma drove us home from a party. We'd volunteered to leave early and drive back. Someone had to be responsible. The kind of detail that matters when you're trying to convince people you really saw what you saw. The dashboard thermometer read -32 degrees Celsius. That's the kind of cold that kills exposed skin in minutes, that makes your breath crystallize before it leaves your mouth, that keeps every sane person locked inside their homes. The highway stretched before us like a dark ribbon, empty and infinite. Emma was talking. She was always talking, chattering about something that happened at the party. I loved that about her. She could fill any silence, which meant I could just listen and let my mind wander. So I did what I always did. I stared out the window, watching the darkness roll past. We were maybe 6 kilometers outside of town when the woods started to press closer to the road. Sparse, skeletal trees stood like silent sentinels, their shadows creating pockets of absolute darkness between the gaps. That's when I saw the eyes. At first, they were just points of light in the periphery, catching the edge of our headlights. Green-yellow, like a cat's eyes or a deer. My brain immediately tried to make it normal, safe, and explainable. But these eyes were wrong. They were too high, 7, maybe 8 feet off the ground, floating in the darkness just beyond the shoulder of the road. My stomach dropped. Every hair on my body stood on end in one simultaneous wave of primal terror. Something ancient in my brain, something that predated language and reason, was screaming at me that I was in the presence of a predator. As we approached, our headlights began to illuminate more of whatever was standing there. I saw legs first, not human legs. They bent backward at the knee like a goat's, covered in dark fur or thick hair. But they were massive, far too large to belong to any goat I'd ever seen. The thing stood upright, perfectly balanced, in a posture that was distinctly wrong for any animal I knew. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, to tell Emma to speed up, to look away, but I was paralyzed, frozen. My body had initiated some kind of primitive shutdown response, and all I could do was stare as we got closer. The torso came into view next. Heavily built, barrel-chested, covered in what appeared to be dark clothing, or was it matted fur? In the split second we had, I couldn't tell, but the proportions were wrong, too thick, too powerful. Then I saw its arms. They hung down beside its body, not awkwardly, not like an animal forced onto its hind legs, but naturally, like a person's arms, like it stood this way all the time, like this was its true form. But it was the head that made my blood turn to ice water. 2 curved horns rose from its skull, sweeping upward like a ram's, but larger, more pronounced. And those eyes, those horrible, luminous eyes, were staring directly at us. Not with the startled wariness of a deer caught in headlights, not with animal fear or confusion. It was watching us, observing us, with an intelligence that felt ancient and malevolent. The moment stretched into eternity as we passed it. The thing didn't move, didn't flee, didn't react at all except to turn its head, tracking our car as we drove by. I felt its gaze like a physical weight pressing against my skull, like fingers made of ice water running down my spine. The air in the car suddenly felt thick, suffocating. The temperature seemed to drop even further, and I could see my breath fogging despite the heater running full blast. Emma's hands were shaking on the wheel. I shouldn't be seeing this, I thought, and I realized I was crying. Hot tears streamed down my frozen face. This is wrong. This shouldn't exist. As we passed it completely, I made the mistake of looking back through the rear window. It had turned its entire body to face our direction, still standing motionless in the darkness. Those glowing eyes hadn't blinked, hadn't looked away. It was still watching, still staring. Time fractured. I don't know how long we drove in silence after that. Reality felt thin, like tissue paper, like I'd glimpsed something through a tear in the fabric of the world, something that was never meant to be seen. The lights of town appeared ahead like a sanctuary, warm and yellow and blessedly normal. Only then did I realize Emma had stopped talking. Complete silence filled the car, except for the hum of the engine and the whisper of tires on frozen asphalt. When I turned to look at her, her knuckles were white on the steering wheel, her eyes wide and glassy. "Sorry," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "What were you saying? I must be going crazy, but I thought I saw something back there." Emma didn't look at me. She kept her eyes locked forward, but her voice was small and shaky when she finally spoke. "No, I saw it too." She swallowed hard. Did it kind of look like a goat?" The confirmation hit me like a physical blow. Part of me had been desperately hoping I'd hallucinated it, but Emma saw it too. We both saw it. "What the hell was that?" I whispered. "I don't know," her voice cracked. "I don't want to know." We came from hunting families, both of us. We'd grown up in the woods, tracking deer and elk with our fathers since we were old enough to hold a rifle. We knew the wildlife of northern Alberta like we knew our own backyards. That thing was not an animal, not any animal that exists in nature. Some might say it was a moose standing on its hind legs, but moose don't stand like that, relaxed, natural, with their forelimbs hanging like arms. This thing's arms hung straight down, human-like, purposeful. Others might suggest a bear, but bears don't have horns. Bears don't have backward-bending legs. Bears don't stand 8 feet tall and watch passing cars with calculated intelligence. And nothing, absolutely nothing, should have been out there in that killing cold. No hiker, no wanderer, no lost traveler. Not 6 kilometers from the nearest house in minus 30-degree weather at 3 a.m. Anything human would have been dead within the hour. But that thing stood there like the cold meant nothing to it. Like it belonged to the winter night. Like it had always been there, waiting in the spaces between the trees, watching the humans pass in their metal boxes. Emma and I talked about it in the years that followed, before we drifted apart. Every time we brought it up, the same chill would run down my spine, the same sense of wrongness would settle in my gut. She always called it the goat thing, as if giving it a name could make it smaller and less terrifying than what we'd actually witnessed. But here's what I never told Emma. What I've never told anyone until now. 2 weeks after our encounter, I was looking through the local newspaper when I saw a small article buried in the back pages. A farmer had found several of his goats mutilated in his barn, 3 kilometers from where we'd seen that thing. They'd been torn apart with what the veterinarian described as unusual strength. Their eyes were missing. And last year I was scrolling through social media when I saw a post from someone in a paranormal group. They'd been driving through the same area, same stretch of highway, around 2 a.m. They described seeing something with glowing eyes standing on the side of the road. 8 feet tall, goat-like legs, watching. I know what I saw. We both do. And sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I wonder if it's still there. Still standing at the edge of that dark highway, waiting with patient, ancient eyes for the next car to come around that curve. Still watching. Still wrong. Still real. Stay safe, guys.